Indicated the first lady she would have taken a little more time because I too was listening, waiting to hear what was coming. But we're going to do it this way. We're going to continue. If you're here for the first time, we welcome you. I want to welcome you especially, and also to let you know this is the way we normally do it. First Lady ministers to the first half of our she presents for the first half, she ministers for the first half and of the ministry, and then I come on after. So last evening, now we have been on a journey since last year, talking about the gifts of the Spirit and the things that God has blessed the ministry with, blessed His church with. And He has given certain gifts, and He has foisted certain things on us that are needed for the upliftment of the faith, for the building of the church. Because He said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So He's building His church. And in order to build His church, when you're building, you need blocks, you need cement, you need sand, you need a number of different things. And He is giving us the things that are needed to build His church. And one of the things He has really given to us is the gift of leadership, being able to lead. And as I always believe, all of us are placed in a position of leadership at some time or the other. But as a parent, as a teacher, as a supervisor, manager, or just a senior person, we're placed in a position of leadership. So we need to understand the principles of leadership. And we are using the word leaders as an acronym. And we are looking at LEADERS. And we've reached the letter D. And one of the things that we're doing in D is that we are looking at the devices of the devil, the devices of the devil. Last evening, we looked at disappointment. And when we ended, I wanted to ask you a question, and I want to start with it today. Have you ever, think back in your mind, disappointment is a part of life. Can you remember something that really disappointed you, that caused you to, maybe shake your head, maybe you get into, that place? Because disappointment leads to dejection. Check your mics, please, people. Disappointment leads to dejection. When you see somebody dejected, most likely it's because they were disappointed. And sometimes it leads to disenchantment. You just, you can't take on anybody or anything. You're just disenchanted. It leads to despondency. You look despondent. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to hear from anybody. Sometimes it leads to depression. You get into that place where you just hide yourself, or where you're depressed. You're down all the time. And that depression can turn into despair. Despair is when you just give up. You don't feel that there's any way back. And that despair could even lead to death. So just some of the things that disappointment causes. I want to ask you, talk to me this evening. Have you ever had something that disappointed you? That you felt really disappointed? Maybe it's somebody. Maybe you were disappointed in yourself because you didn't accomplish something. Because remember, disappointment comes from expectation, and you expected to do better, and it didn't happen. Just share with us briefly, anybody. You feel disappointed, or you felt disappointed. We want to learn from your experience. Come on, somebody, talk to me. Joshua? Let me pull up my...
All right. Yes, we hear. They could unmute.
Okay, go ahead.
For the reason, there is a hand, sister. Minister Bernadette, your hand is up.
Hi, good night, everyone. I wrote exams for nursing council, and after I studied, I really studied, pull apart books, and then exam came, couldn't remember anything, and then I failed. I never used to watch news at all from beginning to end, and I wasn't watching the news, but I was just looking at the TV couldn't tell you what was on the TV, but I was just looking at it and I was just in my, disappointment mood. And then Sister Samantha and my husband Marlon, they told me, look, because I wanted to work in a store. And now that I am a nurse and working at my vineyard, I want to give God all the praise to know that I did not stay in that state that I was in, and I persevered and I pushed through, and I am a proud nurse today.
Thank you. So you didn't let the disappointment keep you from
No.
moving on. You didn't
Correct.
stay in that disappointment. Thank you so much, Minister Bernadette. And this is what we want to talk about, because a lot of us are disappointed. And because of that disappointment, we're traveling down one road, and because we see maybe it's a no entry, you can't go down the road. We don't want to turn back and go down the right road. We stay in that place of disappointment. We might park, maybe we're driving and we just park the car up, or would you just park the car up and stay on the side of the road? You wouldn't do that, would you? So don't let disappointment take you to that place where you lose hope. Don't let disappointment take you to that place where you give up on your dreams and your careers and the things that you're striving for. We need to understand, and the point I'm trying to make is this: disappointment is a part of life. We live in a world that everything is not perfect, and we will not always get what we want the way we want it. We will be disappointed because we have expectations. Maybe your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, your good friend. But I want to let you know that we need to take disappointment and learn from it. Learn from what did not happen. How can it happen now? What can I do so that I don't go down that road again? Because disappointment can lead you to a place where you can't come back from. All right, so let's move on. It seems as though nobody wants to share this evening. Let's move on from disappointment. One of the things that disappointment can take you into, and I didn't mention it before when I talked about dejection and disenchantment and despondency, but depression can take us to a place of discouragement. And it is one of the worst places that a leader can find himself or herself in. And it's one of the worst places that anyone can find, but particularly a leader, when you are discouraged. Because remember, followers take on the character and sometimes the characteristics of their leader. And when you are discouraged, what you are actually saying is, this thing will not happen. I can't go on. I'm disappointed to the point where I just don't want to deal with this thing anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. This discouragement is a feeling of despair in the face of whatever obstacles or challenges. A state of distress. You see all these D words? A state of distress, a loss of enthusiasm, a loss of your drive or your courage. You get up in the morning and you don't want to get up. You don't want to wake up. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to face the day. You're just discouraged. You didn't get a promotion and you're disappointed, and you're disappointed to the point where you're just discouraged because you don't think it's ever going to happen. When you look at your age and you look at, the young people coming up and they have all the qualifications, you get discouraged because you don't think it can happen to you anymore. And so certain things just cause you to be discouraged. And when you are unable to cope with disappointment, that's where you get to the place of discouragement. So you do an exam and you fail it. You got disappointed, but you say, let me try again, and you do it and fail it. And you fail it again. And I've been through that. I think I shared when we were sharing this the last time. I told you there was a particular exam. It's an international exam where it was made up of 4 subjects. And you couldn't fail one. You had to pass all 4. And I remember passing, but failing one. And you had to do over the entire exam, and you have to pay for it. You have to go back to classes. You have to sign up. And I could have come to the place of discouragement, but I pushed through. I pushed through, and I had people who were there with me. And I did not get to the place of discouragement until I finally got through and I passed. We have got to beware of things that bring us to this place of discouragement. Sometimes, because you're physically and mentally exhausted, you become discouraged. I know there are people who they have to take care of somebody else. Maybe you're taking care of a loved one, your parents or your grandparents, they're sick. And you have siblings, but nobody helping you. And you're tired because you had to go to work, and then they come home from work, and as soon as they come home, you had to do this. Or even may not even be taking care of somebody, you know, your mother. Let me use the word, use the mother. You have to go to work just like your husband. But when you come home, you got to see about the children. You got to bathe them, you got to make sure they do their homework, you have to, all these things, and you're tired. To the point where you just, I can't take this anymore. And you get discouraged. You have to do everything for yourself. You're just tired. And there's some people who bring it on for themselves. They have help. They have access to help. But they want to do everything. You're the boss to know, but you're micromanaging. You want to know what everybody's doing. You want to help everybody. You're in your office, you have things to do. So you have your thing to do, and then you're going around by everybody else and see what they're doing. And you no, don't do it this way and do it that way. And there comes a time when it will be too much for you. You want to help everybody. You want to do everything for everybody. I know there's a particular gentleman where I was working. You just have to say you have a problem, and he was there. He was always helping. That kind of thing can lead you to a place of discouragement because you can't do it all. We are not invincible. We don't have all the answers. But we want to help everybody. You know, like you're a fireman, you're putting out everybody's fire. Sometimes it's just a little spark that the person could put out themselves, but you want to put on the fire. You want to bring the hose to out the fire. And they tell you, come talk to me now. Anytime you have a problem, come talk to me. You tell everybody that. And so everybody is coming to you. And you get exhausted. Have you ever been in that place? Have you ever been in that place? You're always reachable. Your phone always on. And as I said, that my phone is on 24/7, but I'm on call. So I have to leave my phone on. But there are some people that are not on call, but the phone always on. It makes them feel good. It feels good because you're speaking to the lives of people. You're always counseling. You're always there giving advice. But it could take you to a place of exhaustion. It could become burdensome. So much so you reach the place where you just can't take it anymore. Your phone, you don't even want to have a phone anymore. You want to switch off your phone. You want to come off WhatsApp. You want to come off because every time your phone rings, somebody who wants help. And they're draining you, they're sucking you, they're pulling from you, and you get to that place of discouragement because you just don't have anything else to give. You have nothing more to give. We have to remember, we cannot save the world. Jesus already did that. Jesus didn't heal everybody. He didn't raise every dead person. Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you. He ensured that he didn't do it all himself, because he could have come to that place of exhaustion. Jesus was smart. He delegated. He could have come down from heaven and went about preaching by himself. But in his wisdom, he chose 12 people to work with him that he could speak into and teach and develop. Because he realized that as a human being, he could not do it all himself. You will get drained. You will get exhausted. You will become like a piece of wood that termites have eaten out from the inside. You look good on the outside, but on the inside, there's nothing. Those are some of the things that causes you to get discouraged. One of the things we did at the end of the year, you all know it, we took 2 weeks off. We told you, spend the time with your family. And First Lady and myself, we had to take that time off because this work is not easy. You all don't know how much we do in this ministry, you know, and this is not by way of boasting or lifting ourselves up. Counseling take up a lot of time. Putting things together. I see First Lady sit down sometime behind that computer and working on flyers and different kind of thing. And then the phone ring and she's talking to this person. I come back after I want to realize she's still on the phone with this person. And, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not, we're not complaining, but we're saying that we ourselves recognize that you have to cut off at some time. And Jesus knew that. Look at Mark 6:7. Mark chapter 6, verse 7. Who has that one? Mark chapter 6, verse 7. Can they unmute?
Yes, Dr. Richards, they can unmute.
Mark.
Oh, there. Okay, thank you. Sorry. My phone was given some trouble. Sorry to be late.
Go
Good night,
ahead.
everyone.
Aye.
Mark chapter 6, verse 7. Good night, everyone.
Aye.
And he called the 12 to himself and began to send them out 2 by 2 and give them power over unclean spirits.
Thank you. He
Welcome.
called the 12 to them and he sent them out. He said, I can't do this alone. I cannot do this alone. Jesus couldn't be here, there, and everywhere as a human being on earth. So he was wise enough to get these 12 men, give them the power, the authority over the power of unclean spirits, because he couldn't be in 2 places at the same time. Those things suck from you and drain you. And after a while, the thing that brought you joy, you want to run from it, and you get discouraged because you can't go on. You're too tired, mentally and physically. Sometimes you have people around you and they're supposed to help you. They're supposed to be there for you. And instead of they're helping you, they're coming to you for help as well. So you are there. You are there and you have these people to help you. And the people that are supposed to be helping you need help themselves. I thank God that for the elders that we have in this ministry. They're strong in the Lord. They know themselves. And we have our own challenges. We meet together as elders. We pray for each other. We know, because if First Lady and I didn't have these 5 people with us, we could not do it. We could not do it. And even the ministers who help, we could not do it without them. We cannot do it without you all. We will reach a place of discouragement and we would not want to go on. And what God had in mind for this ministry will not happen. So as leaders, you need help as a leader. And one of the things that discourages a leader, and I tell you, as a teacher, as a teaching leader, one of the things that would discourage me, and it has happened in the past, is when you're pouring into people, you're spending time before God, you're hearing what God has to say, you're studying His Word, you're dividing it, you know, the way it is supposed to be divided. And you come and you present it to people and you speak into their lives and you point to their lives as a teacher. And maybe for First Lady as a prophet too, you speak into the lives of people. And nothing happens. They remain the same. That frustrates you. It doesn't just disappoint. It discourages you. It makes you feel like you're not doing anything. It's like planting a seed. You want to grow a particular plant. You put the seed in the ground and you water it and nurture it and you put the manure and you come back every day and then nothing. that causes discouragement for a leader. We want to see people grow. We want to see people blossom. We want to see, and if First Lady has said it time and time again, she has pinpointed certain people and said, listen, when you came in here, you were like this, but now you are like that, you have grown. That's what we want to see. That encourages us. But the opposite of encourages is discourage. And when you do not grow, when we come here night after night and pour into you, and it's like you're pouring into a bucket with holes, that is what discourage. It's a discouragement. Let's look at Hebrews 5, 12 to 14. Hebrews chapter 5, 12 to 14.
Good night. Hebrews chapter 5, 12 to 14. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the first principles of the oracles of God. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But solid food belongs to those who are full age, that is, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil.
Thank you. This is the writer to the Hebrews talking to his audience. He said, listen, you'll have been taught for so long, you should become teachers now. But we still have to come back and teach you. You're frustrating us. You could bring us to that place of discouragement. Could you imagine being a teacher in a school, maybe an SCA class, and you teach them everything, and you prepare them, and you do past papers, and when results come out, all of them fail? Could you imagine how you'd feel? That's something to discourage you. Because it says that you have not imparted to them what they need to succeed. And any teacher will take that personally. It discourages you. So growth, we want to see evidence of growth. When there's no evidence of growth, that discourages you as a leader and even as a person. So how do you deal with discouragement? Remember, discouragement is a device of the devil. We're talking about the device of the devil. He discourages you. He makes you feel, hey, it ain't making sense. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I had to come to realize. Remember, sometimes I ask you, any questions, anybody? And no question. And I had to silence the voice in my head that says, they didn't understand nothing, or nobody listening. I had to silence that voice in my head, because you can get discouraged when you think you're talking and somebody must have a question. Somebody must want to know something. So they don't understand anything. See, when you understand, you start to ask questions because you want to know more. But as somebody says, I don't understand nothing, but you understand everything. So I like to think that you understand. That's why there are no questions. But one of the things that you need to do as a leader to deal with discouragement is that you have to lower your expectations of others to a realistic level. What do I mean by that? Sometimes we expect too much from people, especially parents. You expect too much of your children. You want them to be like you. You want them to follow in your footsteps. You are a nurse. You want your child to be a nurse. You are a teacher. You want your child to be a teacher. You are a builder. You want your child to be a builder. And when they don't do that, you get discouraged because you expect so much from them. You want them to do a particular thing, and nothing is wrong with that. As a leader, as a parent, you would see potential in your children and those that follow you, and you want the best for them. But sometimes we've got to realize, and it's one of the things I say in this ministry all the time, not everybody is at the same level. Not everybody is at the same level. If you have 5 children, we have 3 boys, and they're all different. The 3 of them are different. And I cannot expect Jonathan to be like Joshua, or Judah to be like Jonathan, or Joshua to be like Judah, Jonathan. I can't expect that. We cannot expect that. We have to lower our expectations. When you hear Joshua speak, you hear the level of intelligence, which is different to when Jonathan speaks. I can't expect Jonathan to be Joshua. So sometimes we have to be realistic. We have to be realistic and lower our expectation, because sometimes we expect too much. Too much. I'm teaching you this all the time. I'm showing you this all the time. You're teaching the children to maybe bake a cake, or look how long I'm showing you how to do this. Not everybody has the propensity to do what you can do. There's something that flow easy for people. Like I think Joshua shared it some time ago with First Lady. She would come into this room. In fact, where I am now is not where I was last year in terms of the position. And she said, you got to change around, that room. And I resisted it for a long time, because I cannot see what she's seeing. As far as I'm concerned, where I was is the best possible place, best possible position. But she was able to see. And I have to realize I don't have that disposition. I'm not so disposed to be able to see what she is seeing. And she has to understand that of me. The talent and ability that God has given to her, He didn't give to me, and vice versa. But sometimes we expect so much from people. We want them to be like us. We want them to follow in our footsteps. We want them to think the same way. We want them to do, and it is not so. And when they don't do it, we get disappointed, and that disappointment leads to discouragement, because you want so much for the person. There's a saying, you can't expect a fish to climb a tree. You can't teach a fish to climb a tree, and you can't teach a bird to swim. It is outside their ability to be able to do it. They were not built that way. Don't get discouraged expecting so much from people that they are unable to give. Are you hearing me? Lower your expectation. And I suspect I'm teaching to some parents here, because parents are guilty. A lot of parents are guilty of this. Look at you, your brother passed to the school. Look what school you passed for. Or your brother turned out this way, your sister turned out this way, your big sister turned out this way. Why you can't be the same way? You can't do that. Sometimes, as a parent, as a leader, you have to look at those that you lead and understand their capabilities and their abilities, and don't expect more than they are able to give, because it can lead to discouragement if your expectations are not met. And be prepared for failures along the way. Even in the people that you're leading, they're not always going to be able to do everything the way it is supposed to be done. Things will not always go the way you planned. But be prepared for failure. Be prepared for challenges. Because if you're not prepared, it will disappoint you and it will discourage you. If you did not prepare, the same way disappointment comes out of expectation, we need to expect challenges to come. That's how you fight it. Things will happen. Listen, when you stand in front of the pastor, the minister, and he says, for better or for worse, for richer, for poor in sickness and in health, and you say that and you mean it. But along the way, the poorer will come, not only the richer, and the sickness will come. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if your partner is not able to function the way they're supposed to function? Will you give up? Will you get discouraged? Will you say, I don't want this marriage anymore? I don't want this relationship anymore? You can't do that. So you got to be prepared for these things. If you make a commitment, if you make a vow, if you make a covenant, it is for life. Expect the unexpected, because when you do not expect the unexpected, you can get discouraged. And when you make mistake, pick yourself up. Learn from your mistake. And I dare say learn from other people's mistakes too. Don't stay down. Let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9.
Good evening, everyone.
9.
2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9 says, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed.
Thank you. That's the attitude you're supposed to have. Things will happen. You might be hard pressed, but you're not crushed. You might be perplexed, but you're not in despair. Persecuted, but you're not abandoned. You're struck down, but you're not destroyed. Learn to pick yourself up when these things happen. Don't get discouraged. Don't crawl away. Get up. Don't crawl on the ground. You were not made to crawl on the ground. That's for animals. That's for snakes. Stand up to your feet and get going and dust yourself off. When I fell down the other day, when I tried to get up, but I couldn't get up. But I didn't stay down. I tried to get up, and then I got help. I understand somebody else fell again today. Be careful, folks. People are falling. But when you fall, don't stay down. When you fall down and that's lie down in the road, get up. And that's what happens when things happen. You either get up and move on, or you get discouraged and stay where you are. So we're talking about how you deal with discouragement. Get up. And an important thing in dealing with discouragement is know where your help comes from. Know where your help comes from. Let's read. Let's see if we can get through these two verses before we finish. Nehemiah 8, 9 to 13. Nehemiah chapter 8, verses 9 to 13.
And Nehemiah, who was the governor, Ezra the priest and scribe, and the Levites who taught the people, said to all the people, this day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn nor weep. For all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. Then he said to them, go your way, eat the fat, drink the sweet, and send portions to those for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy to our Lord. Do not sorrow, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. So the Levites quieted all the people, saying, be still, for the day is holy. Do not be grieved. And all the people went their way to eat and drink, to send portions and rejoice greatly, because they understood the words that were declared to them.
Hallelujah.
Now on the second day.
Okay, that's it. That's it. That's up to 12. Sorry, up to 12. Thank you. All right. They were being taught the law. All right. Ezra the priest, Nehemiah and Ezra, they read it, they were reading the law to the people, and you know the law is very harsh. And so the people were they were disquieted, if I could use a word like that. They were getting discouraged when they heard what was required of them. And they were encouraged. They said, don't sorrow, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of the Lord. And I think I told you before, we usually take this to mean that when the Lord gives you joy, that will strengthen you, and it may mean that. But to me, it means that whatever brings joy to the Lord, whatever I can do that brings joy to the Lord, that is what gives me strength. My strength is in doing what pleases God. And so the people understood that their strength came from the Lord. They understood that, and they went home and they rejoiced. Psalm 121, 1 and 2, one of the most interpreted verses of scripture. Psalm 121, verses 1 and 2.
Good night, everyone. Psalm
Night.
121, verses 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Up my
Okay.
Lord.
Okay, I am not hearing. Is it my thing, or is it, are you all hearing her?
Okay, let me read again.
Mm-hmm.
Good night, everyone. Psalm 121, verses 1 and 2. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills, from whence come my help. My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And this is one of those misused verses, because I've heard people say, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Folks, let's lift up our eyes to the hills, and we are encouraged to lift up our eyes to the hills. And it would seem as though this is what this verse is saying, but it is actually saying the opposite. Those two words really, if you want to get the true essence and meaning of what these verses say, switch around these two words, the first two words. Instead of I will lift up my eyes unto the hill, put the I after the will. And it's a question really. Will I lift up my eyes to the hill? It's a question he's really asking. And then he asks another question. So where does my help come from? And then he answers, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. In other words, your help does not come from the hills. I pause because I want those of us who have never heard it before to take it in and soak it in. Will I lift up my eyes to the hill? Or we could say it the way we say it in Trinidad, I will lift up my eyes to the hill. Where my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. So they wrote it like a trinity. It is not the hills. Your help does not come from the hills. Your help comes from the Lord. And I'll tell you something. Jerusalem was a place where they had, I think it's about 7 hills. And you know, there's a verse of scripture that says, how lovely on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news. I think we even sing it in a song. How lovely on the mountains are the feet of him who bring good news. Good news. Remember that song? I think it's All God Reigns. All right. So whenever there was help, if they were in trouble and there was help, the help had to come. They would see the help, whoever is coming to help them, coming down from the mountains. Or if they sent, now you could send a WhatsApp or a text, but no, in those days, you had to send somebody, you send for help, or you send a message, you would see the person coming down the hill, so you know, hey, wow, this person is bringing good news, wonderful. So you look up on the hills and you're waiting for the person to bring the good news. And they will say, no. It's not about the looking up on the hills to see the person coming down the hill with the good news, My help comes from God. My help comes from God. The Lord who made the heavens and the earth. Know where your help comes from, because very often we depend on people. Maybe your uncle or your aunt or somebody in the ministry, your pastor or somebody, you're looking to them for help. Your help comes from God, because people will disappoint you. People will bring you to a place where your expectations are not met. So do not look. Looking to them is like looking to the hills. Your help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. And he qualified it, not just from the Lord, because there are many lords, There are many lords. That's why the Bible said, Jesus said, Lord of lords, because there are plenty lords. He said, my help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. David knew that's where his help came from. And this is where you need to understand, and we need to understand. So when we reach in that place of stress and depression and everything, we look not to somebody. We don't wait for that phone call. We don't wait for that WhatsApp. We don't wait for somebody to come and knock on our door. We don't go calling people. We go to God. Our help comes from the Lord. You're going to have to stop here today, continue tomorrow. Please God. So God bless you. Have a wonderful night. To the people who came for the first time, we trust that you will come again. And once you visit with us, once you're a member of the family. Just know that. So God richly bless him.